A sudden deafening crash and bang outside the house, like cannon fire. Ellen shrank, whole body shaking and shuddering with the shock of it and the intrusive, biting cold of it. She let out an involuntary cry. The open windows went flying in one enormous gust. The howling wind, exhaled by swirling elements, beat hard upon her window, forcing it against the stone wall. Sharply pointed edges of glass, shattered by the impact, flew everywhere. The ugly scrapings and poppings of hailstones battered the abstract pattern of the broken glass. Ellen closed the half-empty wooden frame as the gale forced its way in, aggressive and hostile, invading her private space. She stimmed. Repeatedly, rhythmically, in time with the cruel wind, in tune with the elemental forces, the gust ripping through her pages of script, she stimmed, utterly overwhelmed, tired, so tired. Beaten down, she submitted to the forces of nature, she stimmed. She flapped her hands, her arms, and beat her legs. She hopped from foot to foot, skipping like fandango. The movement somehow relaxed the tension, providing some relief from the sensory overload. She had no energy left. The wind howled inside her. It was where the storm raged more fiercely. Inside, it was unbearable. She felt like she almost died. Mingled with the outer and the inner turbulence was the sheer frustration, the disappointment, the devastation. So many hours she had handwritten on those ripped pages. She preferred writing to typing. It gave her feedback. Her fingers raw with crimson blood. She burnt herself out to put down those agonizing thoughts, now lost forever, blown about, waste paper, edges torn to shreds, pages blowing in the wind. So much emotion and feeling building up she could not express to anyone, except in her writing. She could express anything in text. She was never able to speak her feelings to Richard, but that didn't mean she had no feelings. She did not understand herself, the enormous power and strength of her emotions. They had a force of their own. They were independent of her. They were like another person. She was like another person. Why could she not talk about them? Emotions violently bubbling up inside like a volcano about to erupt. A shaken bottle of champagne with the wire at the head removed, about to pop, ready to explode and shoot out the cork into the dark with great force. She felt an uncontrollable shaking, a trembling build up inside her. Divorce, an invasive thought, the word itself alien and intrusive. Where did it come from? A word rising up out of the dark hollows of her mind. As suddenly it blew up, it blew over. The wind dropped, the gales ceased, silence, save for a howling wolf and the ghostly lone babble of a distant blackbird. Calmly, quietly, she stopped and listened to the bird's song. She zoned out into the music of her soul, music that calmed, that pacified, that brought her back to her senses. She was so much now in control, so she thought. Coolly she picked up the pieces that she could find. The paper remains she collected, the glass she shoveled carefully up with a brush and a dustpan and poured it into the bin. It was over. It was as if she had woken from a dream. The power of it all was only a distant memory, a dot on the horizon. It was over, she thought. But the silence was deafening, overwhelming, more than the blustery wind. And it was then she remembered. Then she screamed, she yelled, she let out a blood-curdling shriek that echoed and resonated for miles across the eerie, dusky silence of the forest, piercing and perforating the eardrums of the darkness. She covered her ears with sweaty palms of her hand. She didn't know why. Something stopped her. It was Richard, coming in from the dusky half-light, seeking his own refuge from the turbulent outer wilderness of nature. Coming up the stairs to find Ellen. Like this. He missed her. He felt sad, sorry. He reached out his strong, thick arms, veins bursting on his bulging biceps and roughly blistered hands, and calmly, gently took her in his grip. Holding her body, tightly squeezing her like a vice, he, like a squeeze machine, squeezing her shoulders, her chest, her ribs, her lungs. She felt compressed, like an orange press squeezing all the juice out of her, a juicer. But finally, she was at peace. It was exactly right. Then she understood. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. She was at peace. "I thought," she said in a half whisper. "Yes?" "No, you weren't coming back. I couldn't see you." "No," he said, leaving so much unsaid, not knowing the words, not needing to speak. "I'm sorry," was all she could say. They were both sorry, and words did not help sometimes. Sometimes it's best to say nothing. "I feel so silly, so stupid." She tried to speak, but her thoughts were jumbled, muddled, crazy, incoherent. "No need." Richard brushed the hair from her forehead in a tender gesture. Her feelings were bubbling up again, and this time she felt a warm rush of affection. But no words. Not a sentence came to express how she felt, how she really felt. She knew she was secure now, squeezed tightly in his lumberjack grip. Years of holding an axe and cutting down trees had built up arms and shoulder muscles, extraordinarily large, bulging biceps and deltoids that were cold, hard steel to the touch, strong and secure.